Sometimes in the chaos of life, we search for something or someone without even knowing what it is. Days pass, moments fade, and yet that feeling never leaves us. And then just when you've almost given up, you see them, you feel it. That connection, that warmth, that unmistakable presence. It's like the world pauses for a second, and everything finally makes sense. Moji, I finally found you. After all this time, after every twist and turn, every heartache, every hope, here you are, and suddenly, everything I was looking for was here all along. I want to tell you about a feeling that is both elusive and undeniable. Something that grows quietly inside you without announcing itself until one day you cannot ignore it anymore. It begins with a whisper, a sense of longing that you might not even name at first, a pull that tugs gently at your heart, a quiet awareness that there is someone out there who is meant for you in a way that transcends understanding. You search in people, in places, in fleeting moments, hoping to catch a glimpse of that connection, hoping to recognize it when it comes. And often you wonder if it is real or simply a story you are telling yourself to give meaning to the emptiness you sometimes feel, and yet there is something persistent about it, a flame that refuses to be extinguished no matter how many times the world tells you that love is fleeting, that connection is rare, that the perfect alignment of two souls is a fantasy reserved for books and movies. You keep walking through life with this quiet, unrelenting hope, and sometimes it feels as though you are chasing shadows, as though the one who can complete you is always just out of reach, moving through their own world, unaware of your gaze, unaware that your paths are destined to collide in ways neither of you can yet comprehend. And in those moments when the nights are long and the days feel empty, when the echoes of loneliness surround you like walls of glass, you remind yourself that somewhere, somehow, this person exists. This person who will see you not just for what you are, but for all that you are becoming. For the sum of your fears and hopes, your quiet resilience, and the laughter that escapes you in the smallest, most human moments. And then life unfolds in a way that surprises you quietly without fanfare, almost imperceptibly, until one day you notice a shift, a spark in a glance, a familiarity in a smile, a resonance in a voice that feels like it has always known you, even before you knew yourself. It's not dramatic at first. It doesn't come with grand declarations or sudden revelations. It comes in small, unassuming ways that make your heart take notice, ways that make you pause and realize that the journey you have been on, the waiting, the searching, the longing, all of it was preparing you for this moment, for this person. And when you finally recognize them, truly see them for who they are, there's a quiet astonishment, a gentle disbelief that someone could embody exactly what you have been hoping for all along. And yet there they are, entirely real, entirely present, and entirely yours to know. In that moment, the world seems to shift subtly around you. The ordinary becomes extraordinary, the mundane details of life gain new meaning, and the weight of time and uncertainty that is pressed upon you begins to lift. Not because the struggles disappear, but because someone stands beside you and makes them lighter. Not by changing the world, but by sharing it with you in a way that feels intimate and irreplaceable. And as you spend time together, even in silence, even in the spaces between words, you feel a profound acknowledgement of what has been missing. The quiet spaces within your heart that remained empty, not because they were broken, but because they were waiting patiently for the person who would fill them. Not with noise or distraction, but with presence, with understanding, with a love that is steady and unwavering. And in that love, there is a freedom you have never known, a liberation from the fears that once held you back, a permission to be fully yourself, to reveal the hidden corners of your soul, the dreams you have been too timid to speak alone. Odd, the vulnerabilities that made you cautious, the ambitions that made you restless, all embraced, without judgment, without hesitation. It is a love that asks nothing but presence, that rewards simply by existing, that mirrors back to you the worth you sometimes doubt, the beauty that you sometimes overlook, the infinite potential that has always been within you, waiting to be recognized through the eyes of another who sees and cherishes every facet of your being. And in that recognition, in that quiet, tender understanding, the journey you have endured, the searching, the longing, the near misses, the heartaches, the nights spent wondering if this connection was ever meant to be, suddenly makes sense. It was never about the destination alone. It was about preparing you, shaping you, opening your heart so that when you did find this person, you would recognize them and, more importantly, recognize yourself reflected in the love they offer. And so in finding them, you also find clarity, a profound sense of alignment between who you are and who you are with them, a harmony that is both exhilarating and grounding, a rhythm that moves in quiet, persistent waves through your days, reminding you that the universe, in its mysterious way, has been guiding you toward this moment, toward this presence, toward this connection that is as inevitable as it is beautiful, as surprising as it is familiar, as gentle as it is transformative. And you realize in the depth of your heart that what you have found is not just a person, not just a companion, not just a fleeting spark of passion or curiosity, but a soul whose existence complements and completes yours, whose presence illuminates the corners of your being that you thought would always remain shadowed, and whose love, steady and patient, becomes the foundation upon which you can build a life that is more than you ever imagined. A life that feels simultaneously miraculous in its wonder and natural in its belonging. A love that does not demand perfection, but celebrates imperfection, that does not rush or press, but flows with a gentle inevitability that transforms the ordinary into extraordinary simply by being present, by being real, by being here. And as you stand in that quiet astonishment, holding on to the simple, undeniable truth that you have finally found the one you've been waiting for, your heart expands in ways words cannot fully capture. Your spirit feels lighter, freer, more at home in the world, and you understand deeply, irrevocably, that this journey, with all its twists and turns, all its uncertainties and pauses, all its moments of despair and hope, was worth every step because it led you to them, to this person, to Moji, to the realization that in the midst of life's chaos and unpredictability, you have discovered something rare, something enduring, something profoundly, beautifully real. Love has a way of arriving quietly, almost imperceptibly. At first like a whisper, along the edges of or awareness, a presence you sense before you can name it. A gentle tug at your heart that makes ordinary moments feel charged with significance. It begins in subtle ways. The way someone looks at you with a recognition that cuts through the noise. The way their voice lingers in your mind long after it has left the room. The way their laughter finds its way into corners of your memory you didn't know were empty. At first it may feel confusing or even overwhelming because love does not always announce itself with clarity or fanfare. It seeps into your consciousness, challenging your assumptions, softening your defenses, reshaping your expectations of connection and intimacy. And then, as time passes, as you allow yourself to be present, to pay attention to the quiet exchanges and the meaningful silences, you begin to notice the ways it transforms you. Not through grand gestures or dramatic declarations, but through its steady, patient insistence on presence and authenticity. It teaches you that life is not solely about the pursuit of achievements, possessions, or recognition, but about moments of profound connection, about noticing the beauty in the mundane, about the depth that exists in vulnerability and empathy. The person who embodies this love does not attempt to change you superficially. Rather, they reflect back the truth of who you are in ways that allow you to see yourself more clearly, more fully, and more compassionately. In their eyes, you recognize not just your strengths, but your hidden fears, not just your accomplishments, but your unspoken dreams, not just your exterior self, but the interior landscapes of thought and feeling that you sometimes keep guarded. And as you come to understand the depth of this connection, you realize that love has a power beyond mere affection. It reshapes your perception of time, of priorities, of what matters most. The things that once seemed urgent or essential fade in comparison to the quiet joy of presence. The simple act of sharing a life with someone who sees you, who values your being, who invites you to explore the world and yourself without judgment or expectation. This love does not demand perfection. It celebrates authenticity. It encourages growth not by imposing rules or standards, but by offering support, insight, and gentle guidance, reminding you that the greatest change comes from within, nurtured by connection, inspired by care, and strengthened by trust. And in this transformation, the world itself begins to appear differently. Colors seem brighter, sounds more resonant, moments more vivid, and even ordinary routines are touched with meaning because they are shared with someone who values your presence. You begin to notice the subtle interplay of actions and intentions, the way a touch, a glance, a word can ripple outward, influencing not only your own experience, but the experience of those around you. Love, in this sense, becomes a lens through which life is interpreted, a new lens too. Hat magnifies beauty, tempers disappointment, instills patience, and fosters gratitude. And as you walk through life with this awareness, you come to understand that love is not merely an emotion. It is a force that transforms perception, that realigns priorities, that teaches humility and courage in equal measure. It encourages you to risk vulnerability, to confront fears, to extend kindness even when it is not reciprocated, because the act of loving itself holds intrinsic meaning. And in loving and being loved in return, you discover a depth of life previously unimagined, a richness of experience that makes solitude sweeter, companionship richer, and the ordinary extraordinary. It is in this space that you realize how profoundly you have changed, not through grand events or dramatic shifts, but through the quiet, consistent presence of someone whose love mirrors back your potential, validates your worth, and illuminates the path forward with a clarity you had not known before. And as these realizations unfold, as your perception of life itself is reshaped by the transformative power of love, you begin to see that the world is not static, not predetermined, but alive with possibility. A landscape where connection, meaning, and beauty are not accidental, but are cultivated through attention, care, and openness. Love teaches patience, resilience, and gratitude. It teaches that joy is not always loud or public, but often whispered in quiet moments, in gestures unnoticed by the or LD, but profoundly felt by the heart. And as you move through this transformed life, you understand that this love, steady and authentic, has not only changed how you see another person, but how you see yourself, how you move through the world, how you approach challenges, and how you embrace possibility. It becomes a compass, guiding you not to perfection, not to certainty, but to awareness, to presence, to the capacity to receive and give fully. And in this awareness, the ordinary transforms into the extraordinary. A simple walk becomes an exploration, a conversation becomes a revelation, a touch becomes a language of its own. And you realize that in the act of loving and being loved, the world itself becomes more vivid, more meaningful, and infinitely more beautiful. And you carry this understanding forward, not as a fleeting feeling, not as a momentary thrill, but as a profound transformation that shapes every thought, every choice. In every heartbeat, there comes a moment in life that sneaks up on you without warning. A moment so subtle, yet so powerful, that it shifts everything you thought you knew about yourself and the world. You may not recognize it immediately because it is not heralded by fanfare or dramatic events. It begins quietly, like a soft vibration in your chest, an awareness that something or someone has arrived who changes the way you feel about existence itself. You start noticing the spaces in your life that once felt hollow, the corners of your heart that you thought were permanently empty, and suddenly in their presence, those gaps begin to feel less like absences and more like waiting rooms for something essential. Something real, something that was always meant to be. And in realizing this, there is a profound, almost unspoken acknowledgement that you are no longer alone in a way that matters. It is not just companionship, it is a connection that seems to recognize the very fabric of your being, the threads that were frayed or hidden, and it weaves them into a tapestry that feels whole, resilient, and radiant. You look at them, and there is a reflection of yourself that you never fully saw before. A reflection that understands you, accepts you, and cherishes you, not just for your strengths, not just for the parts of yourself you show to the world, but for the entirety of your existence. The shadows as much as the light, the doubts as much as the certainties, the quiet vulnerabilities as much as the bold gestures. And in this realiza, you understand that life has been patiently preparing you, shaping you, teaching you the lessons necessary to arrive at this juncture, to meet this person, to recognize the completeness they bring without words or expectations. It is in the silent conversations, the shared glances, the moments of quiet understanding that you feel this completeness. It is not about filling a void with dependency. It is about discovering that someone has always been capable of mirroring your soul in a way that affirms, inspires, and nurtures you. And you notice it in the details, the way their presence makes ordinary experiences luminous, the way their laughter syncs effortlessly with yours, the way their touch feels like a gentle punctuation to all the sentences of your life that were unfinished, unresolved, or overlooked, Every memory, every experience, every longing suddenly aligns into a narrative that makes sense, as if the universe has been quietly writing a story that was waiting for them to arrive. And in this alignment, there is a serenity, a profound peace, a recognition that the missing pieces were never truly lost. They were simply waiting, held in potential until the right connection, the right presence manifested. And you understand that they do not complete you by changing you or molding you. Rather, they complete you by reflecting back to you the wholeness you had carried inside yourself all along. The wholeness that you could not fully see until someone's sense gently illuminated it. In seeing them, in being seen by them, you come to recognize the depth of your own capacity for love, for trust, for empathy, and for joy. You realize that the journey of life, with all its detours and uncertainties, has been a preparation for this revelation, for the moment when recognition meets arrival, and arrival meets acknowledgement, and acknowledgement blooms into a quiet but profound joy. And in this joy, there is no need for loud declarations or external validation. It exists in the simple act of being together, in the mutual understanding that each of you has found in the other what you've been seeking in fragments all your life. And as you hold this truth, as you live it day by day, you feel the subtle yet unshakable power of completeness. Not a completeness imposed by circumstance, but a completeness born of love, patience, recognition, and the quiet miracle of connection. You realize that the missing pieces were never separate from you. They were always part of your story, waiting for the right presence to align them, waiting for someone who could see them, honor them, and treasure them as part of the shared journey of life. And in that realization, the world itself feels transformed. The ordinary becomes sacred, the fleeting moments eternal, and every heartbeat resonates with the knowledge that you are exactly where you are meant to be, with the one who makes you feel whole, who honors your entirety, and who walks beside you with understanding, patience, and love that is steadfast and enduring. There is a dimension of love that is rarely spoken about, one that does not demand grand gestures, declarations, or public acknowledgement, but exists quietly, persistently, like a river carving its way through the landscape of your life. It is the understanding that love is not only about the intense, fiery moments of passion or the exhilaration of discovery, but about the steady presence, the quiet commitment, and the unspoken promises that anchor two souls together over time. This kind of love is patient. It does not rush. It does not judge. It watches, observes, and allows life to unfold, recognizing that the deepest bonds are formed not through urgency, but through shared experience, through endurance, and through the willingness to be present, even when the world is unpredictable, even when circumstances test the resilience of your connection. And in this endurance, there is a profound beauty, a subtle recognition that love is not a fleeting sensation to be captured, but a living, breathing entity that grows and evolves with each passing day, shaped by laughter, by tears, by triumphs, and by trials. It is in the moments that go unnoticed by others, waking early to make a cup of coffee just the way they like it, holding their hand without needing to say a word, listening when they speak, not to respond, but to understand that the power of love is revealed. It teaches you that words are not always necessary, that promises are not always spoken, and that commitment is not proven by declarations, but by consistency, by attention, by the quiet choice to remain, to invest, to honor the presence of another human being whose existence has become essential to your own. And in this choice, you discover a freedom that is paradoxical yet true. The freedom to be wholly yourself without pretense, without fear, because someone else sees you, knows you, and loves you, not despite your flaws, but in the fullness of your humanity. And this realization transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary. A walk through the park becomes a meditation in shared silence. A simple meal becomes an act of connection. A glance across a crowded room becomes a language of its own, rich with recognition, trust, and intimacy. You learn that love endures not because it is easy, but because it is chosen moment by moment, day by day, in the quiet decisions that often pass unnoticed, but are the foundation of a life shared. And as you embrace this understanding, you begin to see time differently. You no longer measure life by the milestones of achievement alone, nor by the fleeting highs of pleasure or excitement. Instead, you measure it by the depth of connection,